¿Qué tal, mis queridos alumnos de literatura? Espero que este mensaje los encuentre con bien. Hello, my dear literature students. I hope that this message finds you well and that you've had a lovely day and a lovely week. And speaking of this week, our week is brought to you by our fun fact of the week. And this is what our fun fact is. Pandas don't have particular sleeping spots. They simply fall asleep wherever they happen to be. Oh, the life of a panda. It's one of incessant eating and incessant sleeping. Look at the animation. It looks a lot like Japanese anime, doesn't it? So let's take a look at our calendar here in order to see the signpost that we have ahead of us. So, as you can see, we have our first essay and the respective outline, which will be due Sunday by 11:59 p.m. Let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at our canvas here. All right, so you're doing the first thing, which is watching this video. It's our overview. The next thing, you'll notice that we have our first story, which actually this essay is based upon this story. And it's a really cool one. It's Cathedral by Raymond Carver. So go ahead and read that. For this discussion board, you're going to cite a quote from the story that you feel is significant. What is its larger meaning as it relates to the story? And answer, why is this quote significant? Remember, because this is indeed a discussion board post, remember to also reply to at least one classmate's post to get full credit. All right, the next thing that we have is our essay itself. So please be so kind as to download the prompt. I have it here ready for us. And here it is. Let me move this to the side a bit. There we go, that works. So stereotyping essay prompt. Let me minimize this so well. I always like to organize things and make them tidy. All right, so Raymond Carver's Cathedral deals with the subject of stereotyping. And here's your task. Write an essay exploring how Cathedral explores the topic of stereotyping. Make sure to support your claims with textual evidence. Of course, it's a literature class, and this is our primary source here, this Cathedral story. And actually, the Brainstorm is going to give you an awesome opportunity to find good support from the story itself. It will place you in that situation where you will be asked to look through the story itself, so that when it comes time to write the paper, you'll have already set yourself up for success. All right. Now, these guiding questions here, you'll notice that we have two moves, if you will. Number one is directly linked to what the text says, so what the story says, right? And the next is connections, right? Connections and overall engagement. So let's take a look at what that will be. And actually, these are the questions that I have included in our Brainstorm. So let's save looking at that for the Brainstorm, which will be the next thing that we'll look at. This format requirements, of course, it's an MLA. You folks went through 1A and 1B and we'll be doing nothing but MLA, so continue carrying that forward, that same trend. And 1-inch margins all around, of course, you know it's all MLA. For this one, it's a minimum of 4 pages. And this distribution of points, this is the way it will work. So the essay itself will be worth up to a total of 100 points. Simply using MLA format, that will be worth 5 points. Of course, you need a works cited page, since our primary source here is indeed this story, Cathedral. So you need to create a works cited page for that. The important dates for this assignment is as follows. The brainstorm will be due by Sunday by 11:59 p.m. The workshop, which I will go over just how we will do our workshop. So I'll go over that in next week's module. Just know that for every paper for our class, we'll be having a peer review workshop. And just bear in mind that you'll submit your rough draft by Wednesday of next week. But like I said, I'll explain the particularities of how our writing workshop will work in the next module. So just kind of have that in the back of your mind that you'll be writing a rough draft and you'll be submitting that by Wednesday. The final draft itself is due 2 Sundays from now. That will be April 24th. Here's the grading criteria, things that I'll be looking for strong papers. So strong papers will reflect the following traits. So for content, you should have a clear thesis statement that addresses the prompt's central task. In this case, this is the central task. Write an essay exploring how this story explores the topic of stereotyping. Well-constructed paragraphs that offer different ideas with examples and explanations. Of course, use the text. Organize your paragraphs nicely. Attention to literary texts and connections to the real world, which actually my guiding questions here will prompt you to make those connections. Remember that with writing, it's not just simply reporting, especially with literature. No, you want to make connections to things from the real world, to things that you know. You want to address the so what question, right? That's called the implications. So why is this important? Why is this an important message? So that's kind of the work that we do here with literature. You look at just how something is being presented, and also bring in some examples too from the text and make those connections. Okay, what's the ultimate message or takeaway? And why is this ultimate message or takeaway important? All right, which actually, you know what? I'm going to have a lesson on textual analysis for next week's module. I think that's an important thing. But essentially, just be looking at this topic here, how it deals with the subject of stereotyping, and then making connections to real life, which I'll explain how that will work in our brainstorm. Attention to the literary text. Wait, I already said that. Demonstrates clear, insightful, relevant, and deep critical thinking. So obviously, put time and effort and critical thought into it. Treatment of topic is thorough. So for organization, have a strong, engaging intro and conclusion, and obviously, body paragraphs that all speak back to the central thesis. Employ effective transitions, and then the usual format and mechanics things like properly citing sources, using MLA format, running the spell check before submitting the final draft, obviously, using appropriate point of view. Absolutely, you know what? You can use I, it's never a crime. Just remember that in this case, the primary source is this story rather than yourself. I think a lot of times in high school, teachers would say, don't use I. Maybe they would say that because the essay or assignment that you were working on, you were not necessarily the primary source. The primary source was given to you, whether it was a play or a story or whatever. But for me, absolutely, you can use I. Just make sure to keep your focus upon the story of this one, the cathedral, and then make sure to also bring yourself in, right? You're not only reporting, but also it's your paper. So your primary voice should be the one that is strongest through and through. So it should be your analysis, right? And you should be making connections to real life. Speaking of which, let's take a look at our brainstorm and its questions. And I believe this is going to help us a lot, which actually happens to be the next thing on our module. Let's go ahead and download the document here. Here we go. So I want you to do 2 things to get the full credit. Number 1, I want you to create a working thesis where you answer the question, which is, how does this story treat the topic of stereotyping, and what does it say about it, right? So see, how does it explore this topic of stereotyping? And ultimately, you want to uncover what its larger message is. What is it saying about this topic? So here's your guiding questions. This first part is more focused on helping you draw out examples from the story itself. So check this out. How does the story explore the topic of stereotyping? Make sure you use examples from the text. So you can paraphrase a response. You can use direct quotes from the text, whatever the case may be. That's what this chart is. So you can just type directly in it. Oh, there we go. You can type directly in it. Or you can just print it out, write it out in pen, take a picture or scan it and upload it. All right, what is the story's ultimate message about stereotyping? This is crucial. You're going to uncover just what it's saying about it. How do you know this? Use examples from the text. How does the story create a sense of importance for why this topic matters? So, anything else? The next thing is the connection and engagement part. Let me move this here. How does the story's message about stereotyping connect to real life? So, what do you see from the story that allows you to say, wow, that reminds me of such and such in the real world? Why is this an important message once you've drawn that out? And if there's anything else you'd like to add. And this section here, if you have your own guiding questions that you want to ask yourself before proceeding, this is a space for that. This one's optional. But I do ultimately want you to have the thesis here and obviously your responses to these questions. And actually, I just thought of something. So I noticed that we're starting to look at literature and doing textual analyses, right? And in fact, this whole paper's predicated upon that. So I've just decided that rather than waiting for next week to present you with a textual analysis lesson, I'm going to integrate it in this week's module, since it is indeed an important lens to have in order to operate and do the work for this paper. Now, something curious that you'll know is that I have an example in my textual analysis lecture about Russia, and it brings in Russia. And you know, when I made that lesson, I didn't necessarily know that there would be this belligerent situation between them and Ukraine. So it makes it like all the more pertinent. Speaking of which, make sure to donate if you can to help Ukraine. Now, I want to show you something. I actually have created this textual analysis. I've lecture in the MountSat class that I'm currently teaching, and I want to show you that. I want to show you something. Let me move this here. All right. Would you believe it? For MountSat, it's already the 7th module. Here we go. Okay, so it's going to be the same thing. You're going to see this, but I do want to point out something here. When you see this lecture, obviously, this is the PowerPoint for it, for the lesson, and you're going to want to download this handout, because in it, you will be following along and writing your notes, and this is actually how you'll be getting credit for it. Now, I want to point something out. This is a common mistake that I see students commit here, so I want to show you something. This part here that says, "This man is your friend," it's not referencing this snake. I've seen a lot of students look at this snake and say, oh, you want me to deconstruct the picture of the snake. No. I want you to look at this poster here, right below it. This man is your friend. This is a "This man is your friend" poster. For this one, the "If Russia should win" poster, it's not this one, but for the one below it, right? "If Russia should win." And this one, "Online University Allows," the Onion article, that one is actually referencing this article that I have integrated into our page here. So it's for this one, okay? These are the vocab words that we see in this lesson. They're key terms, if you will. And yeah, these are, if there's new words in the lesson that you want to write down and look up. For this one, you can either choose to type it out directly or print it out and write your responses in pen, and you can take a picture or scan it and upload it into the assignment link. So that is the note that I wanted to make. I think this is a very important lesson, textual analysis, since we're already starting our first essay, and the task is grounded upon that, yeah, and the work of literature is precisely that. So it's an important lesson. All right, my dear literature students, I wish you a lovely day on the day that you watch this video, and a lovely week. See you next time, and let me know if you have any questions.